time being 5:36 p.m. I will call this meeting of the Tilton Northfield Fire District Budget Committee to order. Members present: Alden, Charlie, Kevin. So we've got a quorum.
Yes.
All right. And several members of the public. Probably our best attended meeting through the whole budget season.
I would say so.
All right, Chief, what do you got?
So I'm here to, on the behest of the commissioners, and it's actually something I wanted to do as well, is to bring a proposal before the budget committee for their perusal. I know right now we have approved to go to budget district meeting to purchase one engine. Well, over the course of this past year, both our engines have been out of service multiple times, and it's just costing us a ton of money to keep them on the road. And over the past 3 years, the average cost to keep these trucks on the road is $41,000 a year. A little bit more than that. Yeah,
that 41,000 is just in maintenance and repair.
that's correct.
Not refurbishment or anything else.
No fuel or anything like that.
That doesn't include the refurbishment we did on engine one a couple of years ago, or it does?
I know you asked me that question, and I didn't go back to look at it, I'm sorry. So,
Well, this says from 2017 to 19.
yes, those 3 years, 17, 18, and 19.
So when was engine one refurbished? It was in 16. It was 19.
It's been a few years. I don't know, I can't remember exactly what, let me look here.
I just don't want the cost of that refurbishment added into the cost of what we're characterizing as maintenance and repairs.
Design.
What year's the new ambulance?
This one?
No,
That is the, to 2016?
that's the year we put money into engine.
When we appropriated for the new,
We appropriated $41,000 to fix that truck right there, and they bought the new ambulance the same year.
yeah, that was 16, because the ambulance is a 17, so we got it a year later.
Yeah.
You got 17 and 18 and 19 here. I don't know if that's vehicle repairs.
Yeah.
It's the 17. So, according to Charlie's proposed budget here, this is a document from 1/2 of 19. In 17, the actual expenditure for vehicle repairs on 21E1 is $45,604. So with that being said, is that $45,604 included in this?
I'm gonna say it has to be done.
Yeah, this right here, Paul, like 45,602.
I have two in here.
Yeah.
All right,
Yep.
take this down.
That's gotta be total for that year then.
360.
That's this engine here that we did a refurbishment, and
There's the 45, 17 actual. That would include the refurbishment, hopefully.
right, yes, it is.
Plus additional maintenance. stuff. At any rate, we move on.
We'll get, I'd like the chief to do this whole narrative, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry.
I know, those are good questions.
So,
We'll get to it.
so the engines are out of service more often. They're broken not most of the time, they're broken a lot. And many times, both of them are broken at the same time. And there was one occasion where we had the ladder truck in for preventative maintenance, and so it was out of service and taken apart and waiting for parts. And then both engines broke at the same time, and we ended up having to use an old Winterswarm engine as our primary first due piece. because all we had left was the tanker that had water in it. And we had to rely on mutual aid a bit more because of that, because we didn't have a water, really a truck other than the tanker, which we used to shuttle water. We didn't have anything to run a draft or establish a water supply. In contrast, I did a study on the ladder, and the ladder averages over the past 5 years $3,413 a year to maintain. So it's a lot cheaper because it's newer. And it was new when I got here, so it's been maintained properly from the day I showed up. Everything that we need to do to it gets done to it. Fluid film, proper maintenance according to the manufacturer specifications. So this truck's really not a problem. The only problem we've had with this truck, and it's a water problem, with the stuff that we put through there, it scores the valves, and so we have to rebuild valves. But we have to build valves on all the trucks that we have. So my proposal is that we purchase one new engine outright with cash, as we were going to originally in the district meeting, and then we lease purchase a second engine from Franklin Savings Bank for $677,350 for 5 years at 2.35%. 60 monthly payments of $11,976, and the annual appropriation from the apparatus and equipment fund will be $143,717. The interest on the first year is $14,532. Total interest on the bond, or the note, or lease purchase, whatever you want to call it, is $41,235.70, and the total loan cost amortized is $718,585. That's a lot of numbers and everything, but I also looked at other companies that do this type of thing, lease purchasing, and there's a company called Leasing 2, which is down out of Florida, and they gave us a rate of 2.53%, and then there's another leasing company I looked at, it's called First Government. They gave a proposal of 3.75%. So Franklin Savings Bank is still the cheapest, and I prefer them anyways because they're local and a lot, like to keep the money local if we certainly can. The benefits of this plan is that it's going to reduce the operating budget by about $30,000 a year because we won't be spending that on 2 old trucks that are always broken. And I don't know the exact number because they haven't done my numbers for next year, but it's going to be approximately $30,000, give or take a few. And when you take into consideration what a new engine costs for repairs and maintenance, given the lattice truck's annual fees, and also given that an engine runs more than the ladder truck, I'm saying it's about $5,000 a year for repairs and maintenance on the ladder truck. That's a savings of $25,300 per engine when we buy 2 engines at the same time, too. So there's engineering fees when they design an engine, and I tried to get the exact number, but they won't give you the exact percentage or number because that's proprietary, because if their competitors know what the exact engineering costs are, then they can figure out where their efficiencies are and become more competitive. So. But when I talked to the dealer to try and figure it out, he said each engine, it could be anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000 per engine on engineering design, because you have to take all the CAD time and all their salaries and stuff like that. So it's got to be too difficult to really fine-tune that number exactly. But in the end, if we buy 2 engines now, we'll save $50,600 off the price of 2 engines. So that's $25,300 per engine. which is a pretty big cut. At the same time, we can reduce the apparatus maintenance and repairs line item. And which is money that is based on the tax rate, whereas payments for a new engine would be coming out of the apparatus and equipment fund, which is not based on the tax rate. It's a pretty ideal situation here, where if you look at, if we buy now on the second page, the estimated 5-year maintenance on engine 3, just engine 3 alone, never mind engine 1, just engine 3 at its average cost for the past 3 years, it's going to be, for the next 5 years, when we're supposed to do to purchase our next engine, is $108,090. The maintenance on a new engine over 5 years is about $25,000. And I get that figure from using the ladders figures and even bumping it up some, because I know we use the engines more. That's an overall savings of $83,000 over 5 years out of that you won't have to have in the tax rate over those 5 years. And additionally, the interest on the loan, or the purchase to lease, whatever you want to call it, is $41,236. And since we're buying two, if we buy two, we're going to get a $50,600 discount, which is an overall savings of $9,364. The other thing to remember is the prices on these trucks are going up September 15th. The email I got said anywhere from 2 to 4%. As they get closer, they'll final it down. But I worked on 3% right in the middle. So right now, one new engine costs $703,677. If it goes up for 3%, it's going to go up over $21,000, and that'll bring the price to $724,781. If we buy two new engines right now, the total cost of two new engines is $1,381,000. If we wait to buy two new engines later, it's going to be $1,395,000, which is over a $40,000 increase. I guess I don't know where else to go on that.
Okay.
Wait a second.
We're going to have there's a lot of questions. I probably have 10 in my head. You were first. I'd like to open up the questions and clarification. We got a lot of information. Go ahead.
Well,
Yep.
two things, Don.
What's your name, sir?
Don Stevens.
All right.
What he wants to do, equipment and apparatus fund, I don't think was written up that way when they voted on it. Because you're using money to pay the bank. And that was specific when it was written up, that we would not borrow money and pay it out of the equipment and apparatus fund. You've got to check the way it was written originally.
The wording doesn't prohibit you from taking a loan or a lease payment. What the wording is, and the intent and the wording is for purchasing and replacing apparatus and equipment and EMS stuff and all that stuff.
But you're talking about paying interest and stuff like that. It was specific that would not happen.
I guess the intent of that was that we would buy everything cash.
It was specific.
Yeah, so the intent is, yes, we would buy everything cash. But by buying one outright and leasing one, in the end, we'd still be saving money in the apparatus and equipment fund.
I don't think that makes any difference. You're going against. Well, I think you've got to write another warrant article to do it. It's the only way you can legally do it.
Mr. Chairman, can I kind of piggyback on
Yeah, go ahead.
that, if I may?
Yep.
When the chief and I had talked, one of the ideas that I had thought of was, I like to pay cash, because we've already been through this when we bought engine 3, and I like that. But this is also a circumstance that I don't think any of us, in my opinion, it's not a circumstance that none of us want to be in, where we're borrowing fire trucks. And if we're gonna do this, I would rather see us pay it off. Make the purchase this year so we can be ahead of the curve. And pay it off. There's no penalty, correct, Chief, on paying off early?
No.
So if we pay off early, let's take the lease this year. And then if we get, well, there's plenty of money in that fund. That
I understand that.
that if we do a lease this year, so if there's any unforeseen circumstances in the next year, we're not burdening with 2 engines this year. Next year we take a peek at it and we say, yeah, we're good. Let's pay this off and let's get the interest down to just about nothing.
This kind of falls back when we had the lease pickup truck thing, right? We had 2 pickup trucks.
Pickups
and
and
leases.
purchase outright.
No, the previous 2 pickups.
Yeah, there were leases.
20 years ago, we're still talking about that.
Oh, the trucks? Oh, they just went and bought them.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
nobody gave them the authority to buy them. They just went and bought them, leased them.
right, leased, so that,
But that didn't affect the equipment apparatus.
no, but there was, that got us into the whole.
Because the equipment apparatus
It got us into the whole
wasn't
discussion of leasing versus buying outright and the cost of money and, yeah.
I like the idea. I'm wondering what you're doing, whether it's legal. That's all I care
Right,
about.
I'm concerned about the mechanism as well, more than
If all
that.
you have to do is write a warrant article to give you the permission to do it, you're all set.
So under the RSA, the 5 commissioners can enter into a lease purchase agreement without anybody's permission. They can just do it. It's RSA 33, I can't put my fingers on it.
But I don't know what that's got to do with equipment apparatus.
Nothing. It's just saying that they can sign a lease purchase if they want to.
Oh, that's fine. But I think, and I like Kevin's idea, you know, even if you only have to pay on the second one, if you only got enough money because you don't want to drain it, and figure out what you want to keep 50,000 in there or what, but use the money and pay it. That as much as you can get out of there.
There are scenarios where you could do that. Absolutely.
I mean, you don't have to do anything warrant article, because you're using equipment and apparatus fund. You may not be paying the whole thing, but you're gonna be paying the bulk of it. You can figure that out pretty fast.
Even if we paid the, well, I don't even know if we can do this, but this is way outside the box. Even if we were to pay the interest from our operating budget, I don't like that idea at all, but
Right.
if we were to pay the interest out of our operating budget and
And the principal from,
the principal from apparatus and equipment, then next year pay it off.
At that meeting with that equipment apparatus fund, Tom Gallant was on the committee, and somebody asked him that question. Nope, we'll never have to borrow money again for equipment.
Well, that a lot of time has passed since, and I think, I remember the meeting specifically when Kevin brought up the idea of, why are we financing a fire engine when we have the cash to pay for it?
You're right.
And everybody's light bulbs went off and said, you're right, let's just pay cash for the silly thing. So, you know, in this particular scenario, this is a scenario, again, that none of us want to be in, but in this particular case, I guess my point is at that meeting, we were fine to finance it. We just chose not to, right? Based on the language that's in the apparatus and equipment fund, because that warrant went through fine to finance it. It was just our preference to not.
When, in 2005, when we wanted to create the apparatus equipment fund, it was me who said, we'll never borrow money for equipment again. And the response was, that is correct. We will never come to the taxpayer to borrow money again for a piece of farm equipment.
Oh, okay.
Because if that wasn't the answer, I was an over.
Yeah,
And I supported that article around the clock.
and I think that's why you gained support when you said it again when we bought engine 3, that we said we weren't going to do that. So the integrity of our word, we paid cash for it. So I guess if we move forward in this scenario, I think the chief actually has the numbers that we could pay cash for these 2 engines, and there's still surplus left over.
we just have to take a harder look at the improvement plan on the next piece, right? It's
So,
kind of a shell game as the rest of the CIP
Stuff in
plan.
here, you could put aside till next year in this budget.
Paul, you had some, you had some questions?
Oh, that's okay.
Guaranteed.
I'll listen for a while.
Okay. Yeah, Can I jump in?
You're the chairman.
You're
All right,
gonna
well-
You're gonna have to ask me, I'm the young man.
If you guys are good for a minute.
I'm good.
Two identical trucks, same blueprint, same engineering? Okay.
That's-
Same extra $100,000 because it won't fit in the building per truck?
More or less, yes.
Okay. There's my hang up, you know, but paying that extra money to build the truck to fit the building, but waiting, having 2 trucks a year apart, then you've got that engineering thing hanging over your head. Are we ever going to get a building where we can just have a cheaper, taller truck that fits in more buildings for $100,000 less? That's where my gears are going, is can we build a cheaper truck, right?
You can absolutely build a cheaper truck. You can build a cheaper truck.
Yeah, right.
Than
So
the one
we-
they got spec. You can, in fact, they're,
So my question with identical truck, so this is good with the truck committee, because it's the same truck. It's everything
Yes.
that the guys wanted, and then whatever truck they get on, they're similarly equipped. It's the same go-tos for storage.
They'd be exactly,
They'd be-
equipped exactly, they'd be twins.
What does this do to us? What's the life expectancy of the truck now, and what does that do to us 12, 15, 20 years from now that both of these trucks are going to fail at the same rate as far as if we alternate mileage and this and that? Are we going to be in a 2-truck situation
So,
at another future point in our life?
so we know that that could be an issue.
Yeah.
So, right now, and it's probably something that somebody else is going to answer down the road when it gets closer.
Yeah.
But these trucks will have a lifespan of 20 years.
Okay.
But we would probably do it so that one truck would wear out in about 15 years and still have 5 years worth of value for a trade-in, whereas right now we get nothing out of it. And then we would purchase an engine, and then 5 years down the road, purchase another engine. That's-
Those are just fleet management questions, and the long term is a primary piece. And
But that's how
secondary.
everything is right now.
Yeah.
We really don't know what everything's going to look like 15, 20 years down the road from now.
I just know from the brief conversation, I've only had a few conversations, but I just know that's one of those questions that's going to jump out at us in the district meeting is, are we going to have to buy 2 trucks again? Are we going to get hit with this again?
So my plan is to use one 3 times more than the other,
Yeah.
so that one would wear out quicker than the
Yeah.
other. That's the plan.
Who was Kevin?
the bottom line is, I do not support buying 2 trucks in one year.
Yeah.
We have history of spending money that people think we don't need to spend. We were told when engine 1 was bought, and again when engine 3 was bought, 20-year truck. They don't last 20 years.
These ones don't.
Who's kidding who?
It's different.
Well, I'll say this, Franklin has success at 20 years because they take care of them. These
They-
trucks are not,
They've also purchased higher quality trucks to start off with, and they have been taken care of from day one in Franklin. Although these trucks have been taken care of, they have not been taken care of according to the manufacturer's specifications. And nowhere near where I thought they should have been when I showed up here. When I came here, the trucks were breaking, they weren't even greasing the shackles on the springs. So we're breaking leaf springs all the time with the seized.
we put $14,000 in suspension that thing when I was commissioner. And that was 2007, 8, and 9. At that time, the thing was 5, 6, and 7 years old. So my first question is, you want another $700,000. What are you willing to give up for that? This is not a case of we can be frugal and not buy something. It's a case where, we just need to spend more money.
So,
And that's never acceptable.
so by spending the money now, you're saving the money later. Because the
Spending
price,
money you're not saving.
you're still going to have to buy another truck. And it's going to cost a lot more when you buy that other truck than if you buy 2 right now. So that's where the savings is. Spending, I know it's like semantics. You're spending money now, it doesn't mean you're saving it now. But spending it now means you will save it when you want it. It's the 5-year plans down the road. That truck is going to cost, what's it going to cost 5 years down the road? I have the paper right here.
3%.
3% times 5 is 15% more than, what it is now. Figure that out.
And we got all those years to save that money.
Yes.
Right.
And why would you not want to save that money? Where you could use it towards, you're a big proponent of using the apparatus and equipment fund towards fire station costs or bonds.
Speaking of fire station costs, from day one, I've always thought that a portion of that money from that account should be earmarked for a station. When brought up in the most recent years, we were told that, yeah, we could probably spend 30 grand a year out of it. Now all of a sudden, because we need a new truck, that account can spit out 100 grand. Why can it spit out 100 grand for a fire truck, but only 30 for a building?
Because we're not spending $1.5 million 5 years from now on a truck.
We may not anyway.
Huh?
We may not anyway.
So you're going to run with one engine? Because neither one of these trucks is going to last another 5 years.
You just said that operational costs over the next 5 years are going to be 40-some thousand for engine 3.
No, 108,000.
$108,000 what?
Dollars.
To maintain engine 3 for 5 years?
Yes. Because of the repairs that it keeps constantly needing. It's something new every single week, every month.
There's
There's
some point
something
that's gonna be
big
a new
that
truck
keeps
again,
breaking.
right?
No, it's not. It's got 112, 113,000 miles on it now.
This whole thing is just...
I'm struggling with it too, Kevin. I'm
It's
just
the three
curious,
Ps. It's piss poor planning.
is there a,
It really is.
Not on my part.
is it the kind of thing, and I don't even know how this works, with the manufacturer, you can place an order for 2 trucks, lock in price, and take delivery on the second truck in another fiscal year? And so we're getting a truck, you know, what are the nuts and bolts of that, of negotiating the deal and say, hey, we're gonna order now. Start building, get us one this year, and then take delivery on the other one. And we do a price lock.
So I did talk to him about that, and we wouldn't realize the same amount of savings because
Well, we'd be
they
dodging
can
interest.
lock in what their costs are right now.
Yeah.
They don't know what their costs are going to be in another year, right?
But we'd be
Well,
dodging interest payments, and I don't like interest payments. You know, I like the idea of having 2 similar or identical, but I struggle with this swallowing the pill in the same year, trying to find a way to have one going and then have one coming in.
And if the plan really is...
I would pay 3% more for that second truck in the second year to save all that interest on a 5-year note and not be getting into interest and muddying our funds, and that's just me, I don't know.
There's a way to pay for the first one, and I know nobody likes to do that, but if you got, say, 30% of the money that you can let go for the equipment adder, give that to them, make the first year payment, we'll pay you the rest next year.
Right, there's got to be some kind of shell game.
And that's gonna cost you a little bit in interest, but
Yeah, but not
not...
like we're looking at.
The lease
There's
purchase,
$124,000. How much of that money went to stuff that was all the same thing happened to the trucks all the time?
124,000. I didn't.
On the repair.
Oh, normal maintenance.
They were normal maintenance.
No, I'm asking.
Not that, no.
I'm trying to clarify what you're saying. You're saying the difference between normal maintenance and what's
No.
broken because the truck is...
I'm wondering if it's, the truck is the same problem over and over and over.
You're not going to put a transmission in every year,
Yeah,
or every
that's
other
right.
year.
How
We
Yeah,
went
all right,
around
yeah, I
all
understand what
those
you're saying.
big ticket. Yeah, we talked over the winter time about the big ticket. Yeah, you're not going to revisit this, you're not going to revisit that. But the problems these trucks are having are big problems. They're just moving all around the truck. And yeah, I understand. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like once you fix something, you shouldn't have to come back and. But
It
we're
should take
trying-
a lot less time the second time.
Right. And we're getting into these things about frames and suspension and the rust. The rust is a big thing. I don't know. Charlie, what are you doing?
Good, you?
All right. Got anything?
I don't like the big repairs.
I know.
If you had a car or a truck like this, you'd get rid of it.
Yeah,
You'd stop putting good money in the bag.
I'm a fixer up. But there's a time when you gotta.
Exactly.
But the 2 in a year, that's a tough one. Kevin?
One of my thoughts on the two in the same year is, and the chief would have to answer this question of, typically what happens in the industry is you order the first engine and the build time is 14 months. All right? So we can time it so that second engine doesn't, I would prefer to not have both of them come in at the 14-month mark.
Right.
I would rather say, listen, you need to get us an engine as soon as you can. So if as soon as you can get it is 14 months, we'll take that one. And let's, if you can get us the second one in 20 to 22 months, that puts us into the second fiscal year of, say, that's almost 8 to 10%.
I guess that's what I'm saying is if we get in the fall before the price goes up type of thing.
Why can't you buy an off-the-shelf truck?
We don't fit in our
They don't
building.
fit in the building.
It'll fit here.
Yeah,
But we don't use anything from here as
That's
opposed to
right. It
trucks.
doesn't make any sense to
Right.
buy two trucks at once and pay $100 grand extra for it
Yeah.
to fit in a building that we will not be using the life of that second truck.
Well, having two identical trucks makes a lot of functional use, and it makes a lot of functional sense as well, rather than trying to, the thing is in this compartment on this truck, but it doesn't fit there on the other truck because the layouts are totally different.
I
So
think-
functionality, it makes a lot of sense.
I agree, having a blueprint on file with a vendor that meets all our criteria, that's all been engineered and paid for, and the truck committee likes and all the guys like, that's great. You can order that truck this year, next year, the year after. Hey, just pull out our drawing and build our truck.
If that was the case, we could buy another engine and three.
The
That's not how
apparatus
we do it, because
manufacturers
every
moved
chief that
on
comes
from
down the pipe
engine three.
has different ideas.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
example, the chief that was here before this was bought thinks this is the biggest piece of shit on wheels. But we got it, the chief that came in after thought, oh my God, we gotta have that. Signed it up, and we let whoever spec it, and when it got here, we had to change it.
Yeah.
There's a history here of screwing up.
Not with me.
Oh, everybody's here screwing
No,
up.
I haven't screwed up with any of the apparatus purchases I've made. All well thought out through with all the members of the fire department that are using the equipment. Everything is very specifically laid out, and it's what they want and what they need to do the mission that we are doing here in Tilton and Northfield. Nobody's unhappy about the forestries, nobody's unhappy about the ambulances. We haven't purchased an engine or a ladder. Most of the guys are pretty happy with the ladder, but I wasn't here when that was spec'd out.
No, you weren't.
But I know both engines, they like engine 3 more than engine 1, the way it's laid out and stuff like that, but they don't like either one of them right now because they can't rely on either one of them. They just cannot rely on them. We don't know if it's going to run on a day-to-day basis anymore.
I don't know if I'd like the fireman to tell me what kind of truck I ought to be driving. I'd rather have somebody that really knows fire trucks.
I think there's a
Who is that,
balance.
The administrative assistant?
Huh?
Who would you ask?
Somebody knows something about fire trucks.
You wouldn't ask the people that use the truck every day what features they would like? I don't understand.
Oh yeah, I can understand, I'd like to have this and that, minor things, but not what they want in a fire truck. Talk to people that know fire trucks. There's plenty of people around that know that fire trucks.
I don't know. There's certainly, you could go into a different firehouse every day. You go into 5 firehouses every day, and everyone has a different philosophy on how they buy them. But let's move it to the private sector. Pike Industries talks to their loader operator and allows them to have input, major input on a $1.3 million purchase. That's one person. And the guy says, yeah, I want this, I want the scale to do this, I want these tires, and Pike says, okay, that's what we'll buy. So it's not just the fire service, it's not just Chief Seatar, it's big business. Sometimes that's what happens. Some communities, the fire chief says, absolutely not, I'm going to buy the fire truck, and then it backs into the station, and it's not practical for the folks that are using it. I just got into that conversation yesterday, a very heated conversation that I did a duck and roll out of, that they chose not to buy fire apparatus the way that we choose to. And who knows who's right? You know, it's the philosophical differences of the leadership. So I mean, we could debate that until probably tomorrow morning, and then we could eat breakfast.
The bottom line is, you talk about Pike, who's owned by Oldcastle,
Yep.
a multi-billion-dollar company. That's their money.
Mhm.
This is our money.
Yep.
This is our money.
I'm talking philosophy. I don't want to.
Buying that truck. So,
I don't disagree with
And
that.
as I look through this, I don't know, 80, how many pages of specifications for that one fire truck?
Mm-hmm.
Look, is there anything on there that we can do without? Is there a single thing on there we can do without?
Paint?
How about the stainless steel cab?
The cab is not stainless steel, the cab's aluminum. I
aluminum.
would prefer a stainless steel cab,
So it's aluminum cab.
aluminum cab, stainless steel body.
So it will have an electronic siren.
Yeah, I
That's not
believe
gas
it does, yeah.
There's an electronic siren, they all do.
Yep,
It also has a mechanical siren.
yes,
It costs about $2,800.
not that much, but yeah.
That's what, you look them up, you look it up.
We don't pay that much for it.
Does the truck need to have two sirens? I know it's piddly, it's $2,000. $2,000 on how many things?
So
Can I go
the
through there and
mechanical
pick out
siren
what
is
I need?
much more effective at moving traffic than the electronic siren is.
Say that again?
The mechanical siren is much more effective at moving traffic than the electronic siren is.
Okay, then reverse the question, do we need the electronic?
It has other features in it, the PA system and stuff like that, that the mechanical siren doesn't have.
See, this way, there is things that someone who wants what they want is going to want what they want regardless. When there's a lot of things I want, I don't get them all.
Well,
I
you
don't
want
think
it, you
we
would
do
go
a single
get it.
thing.
There's no one stopping you from getting anything except yourself.
That's right, because it's my money. You're spending my money too.
It's mine too.
Oh, you're right, it is. And that's one thing I actually love. Is that we're spending your money too. So, you know, it's all money. Why do we need a $700,000 fire?
Because when we put it out to bid for everything that the firefighters wanted and the construction.
Firefighters want.
Yeah. They didn't get everything they wanted, believe me. They did not get everything they wanted. There was some things that I wanted on the truck, but they're not on the truck. We didn't even get the manufacturer that I wanted to get. Because I have experience buying fire trucks. I started buying fire trucks in 1989 was the first fire truck that I was on a committee purchasing. And then as I rose up through the ranks in my previous department, I became the person that was in charge of that committee. I purchased probably 6 engines, 1 ladder, 15 or 16 ambulances, and I don't know how many support vehicles. So I have some experience in doing it. I've done some of it here as well. And I know what's successful, I know what items that you want in the vehicle to make the vehicle last longer. The size engine you have, the transmission, the axles, all those types of things, the drivetrain. You want something that's going to be sustainable and not break down all the time. We have hills here that are pretty steep and stuff, so that we need a larger engine and transmission to handle the torque that it needs to get these things up the hill. And we didn't have the same type of hills in Tewksbury, but we did have a couple that were pretty big, not like Bean Hill or anything like it that we do have here. So I understand how to do this, and I've been successful at it. I haven't been unsuccessful, and I just try and bring that here. And I believe what I'm trying to propose is going to save this district money in the long run. You'll have more money in the end if you buy these things now. If you don't want to have more money in the end, then buy just one. And we'll spend more on our taxes to keep the other one fixed. If you want to spend more on taxes to keep the other one fixed, fine, we'll just get one.
We could change the use of the apparatus pool fund to maintain engine free.
You would have to write an article to change it, to do that.
That goes completely against what we talked about at the beginning of this meeting, is that the apparatus and equipment fund has now a defined purpose of buying apparatus and equipment. So we said at the beginning of this meeting that that's the philosophy that we like. But now we're going to craft it to something that...
But we've also expanded on what is bought out of the account today as opposed to the first few years it was.
No doubt. But yet it's still different than what we said at the beginning of this meeting. So I hesitate, and I remember having this conversation with Tom Deland, of it seems like we have the trust of the taxpayers in buying apparatus and equipment from the fund. That's why I'm very cautious about going into a lease purchase, unless we're going to pay it off next year. I don't want to pay, I'd rather not do a 10-year lease, because that's not what we promised the taxpayers. If we keep changing the apparatus and equipment fund, this is the group that probably understands that fund the most. As soon as we bring making changes to that every year, folks can't follow it, and then we lose their trust. So I just don't want to go down that rabbit hole of changing it to suit other needs, because we don't like what we're talking about today. That piece doesn't necessarily make sense.
If we don't take money out of the apparatus and equipment fund to support a bond payment towards the fire station, really less issues at all. But you, for one, expressed interest in taking money out of the apparatus and equipment fund to support a bond payment. So you're talking out of both sides of the mouth at the same time.
A bond payment for a building, but not a bond payment or an interest payment for a truck.
All it takes is another warrant article.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
Why I brought up using the account for a building fund was the point where we were told it could only afford $30,000 a year. Now we need a truck. It can afford $100,000. So now the apparatus equipment fund can afford $100,000 a year.
If you look at the spreadsheets, I gave you both scenarios and how it works out. So you can do scenarios in the middle too, but these were extreme ends of the scenario. If you wanted me to print 1,000 different scenarios, I could, but you could pick anywhere between the 30 and 75. And in actuality, the fire commissioners would make a recommendation every year as to how much they would want to take out of the apparatus and equipment fund if that were approved towards a bond payment. It wouldn't be an automatic 75 or an automatic 30. We would look at it year by year because it depends upon the revenue we take in from the ambulance, how much we can put in. And on these spreadsheets, these capital improvement programs, I've been very conservative in what I think we're going to do in revenues, and I've been very liberal in what I think apparatus is going to be costing us. So I'm protecting us on both ends. I say I always end up saying we're going to make less than what we really do, and I say things are going to cost a little bit more than what they really do. I've come in under budget on every single thing that we have on here, and I've always made more money than I said we were going to make. So I'm a very conservative person in that respect. But at the same time, I want to make sure that the men that work here, the men and women that work here, have tools that are reliable and exactly what they need to do the job to help all of us when we need help. Right now, we have two pieces of apparatus that are unreliable, and so when the bell rings, we don't know if that's going to work or not. I want to be able to have the tools that we need to do our job. That's all it is. And at the same time, I'm trying to work out a plan so it ends up costing us less now than if we wait and buy another one. I think it's a pretty good idea. I really do. And I understand the philosophy of buying everything cash. I would really like to buy everything cash, and that's really what I do in my own personal life. But sometimes I couldn't pay my house for cash. So I have a loan on that. But it's a smart loan. And I'm paying it off quicker than what it calls for. And that's what I would propose that we would do with this as well. But that's going to be a year-by-year basis and decision based on facts of our income and what our planned projections on expenses are. I know next year we're supposed to buy a new ambulance. This ambulance here costs us extra money every month because of the death thing is always screwed up with it, has to go and get reprogrammed every single month. Every single month it's got to go and get reprogrammed because it can't figure it out or whatever, and they can't fix it. And it's had ECUs changed, depth filters, and you name it, the whole system's been changed out, and it's still not right. It still goes into limp mode when we're trying to take somebody to the hospital.
Park regen thing and all that.
Yes, it's just... So, as much as you think I'm trying to spend our money, yes, I'm trying to spend it, but I'm trying to spend it smartly. I don't want to be spending extra money, throwing good money after bad, fixing things that we should get rid of and start anew. And start right away maintaining them properly so that they'll last longer and be reliable. Whereas right now, it's a toss of the coin.
Evan?
Whether we vote yes or no, I like the idea of, honestly, outside the box thinking of, what I had said to the chief was, and I let 2 days go by before I went down to see him, because I wasn't sure if I was embarrassed, disappointed, or angry. The fact that on the first time I drove by there, we're borrowing a 1990s vintage fire engine from someone because our stuff won't run. Then, once that was gone, and then we're parking, I don't even know what we spent on it, but we're parking that outside, really? So finally, once I pulled my thoughts together, I went and saw the chief and said, what gives? How do we change this so that doesn't happen? And I was here when this was purchased, I was here when Engine 3 was purchased, I heard all the conversations, and how do we build longevity into our vehicles? And to me, outside the box thinking is, hey, let's throw something on the table, and let's see if the body of our community thinks it's a good idea. If the majority of the community thinks it's a good idea, then in my mind, in the long run, it's cheaper for us to do that. I don't want to say savings, because it's not necessarily the definition, but in the long run, it's the smarter thing to do. It puts two vehicles that protect our community in an operational function. We have vehicles that we don't even know if they're going to run tonight. And they're supposed to be emergency vehicles? To me, like I said, I don't know if that's embarrassing or disappointing. And if we start, the onion that I peel back on this, because everybody has a different philosophy. When we bought this, is this engine one?
Yes.
When we bought this engine before it went into service, we had to put $55,000 into it before it went in service, because we bought a stock truck. It came here and said, we looked at it and said, we can't do anything with the 2.5, that's not even how we operate. So it had to go back to the guy that built all of our other engines. We put $55,000 into a stock engine, because that's our philosophy, we buy stock stuff. We bought engine 3, we want it to last 30 years, and we were lucky we got, how old is it now? 18?
Yeah.
No,
14.
13, 14 years old.
And we want that to last 5 more years? I have a major problem with that. And I do not usually come to meetings, and I don't voice my opinion usually, because everybody has a different philosophy. But to me, to have 2 engines, that's all we have for engines, that we're not sure if they're going to run tonight, to me that's wrong. And buying 2 at the same time, I don't buy 2 pickup trucks at the same time, that would not go well in my house. But if we can stagger it out in the big picture on the horizon, that we can save, if we can spend more wisely, because saving is not necessarily the word again, it's what philosophically makes sense to have vehicles that will run. Now, I'll try not to go on another tangent, but when do we come out of the hole of being able to have a vehicle that will last 20 years, 25 years? We know of other fire engines around us that last 30. And when those engines were purchased, it was like, oh my God, you guys spent a lot of money on that. Yeah, you have to spend money to get a truck that will last 30 years. If you want to continue to buy stock trucks, good luck letting it last 15. That's, and I try not to speak too
Well,
often
in this
about
hole
that
we're
stuff.
in, if the magic wand was waved and we ordered a truck tonight, we'd still be 14 months out of having 2 trucks that we can't perform. So we're in a hole. We're in a real hole. You know, this isn't going to get solved in a week or a month. We have to take action. And now we're going to play this 14-month waiting for delivery and going on calls for a better part of a year with our fingers crossed on. So, again, I'm struggling with a 1 versus 2.
So whoever bought that stock truck knew what they were buying.
Well, I don't know if he did. We had a lot of arguments about it at family functions, by the way.
And we didn't make up that engine 3 was going to last 20 years. The people that we are always told we should trust, told us that's a 20-year truck.
We got a wicked good deal on it though.
I paid more than it's worth. Sorry
So-
about that.
Sometimes it makes a difference who's behind the steering wheel.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
We paid $310,000 for engine 3.
So, I mean, I could go on another hour tangent on just that. The chief and I have had some real rough conversations in the last year about what I thought was going to work in this community for, I would agree, a stainless, the engine that he wanted to buy, I dreamed of buying that truck. And we talked about, if you bring something of less of a price tag to the community, and it's still good quality, they'll more likely to be passed. And he did it. He did.
Don't you have one of those trucks? Or doesn't Franklin have one of those?
They do. They do. But
No,
I
they don't
went.
have, I wanted, they got what we're getting, but it wasn't what I wanted to get. What I wanted to get is engineered better than what we're gonna get.
And it was. It's honestly proven by science that brand that the chief wanted, C-grades, no secret. We could show you slide tray after slide tray after slide tray of building collapses or accidents. That cab was the only thing that honestly, by science, saved lives of guys that dove into the cab at 9/11 and they lived. Anyone who dove into any other cab that was not stainless, they were crushed in the cab. And it just, but they're expensive. So yeah, you weigh it out. What was it, another $150,000, Chief?
No, it was about $50,000 more.
45 or 50?
Yeah.
So, those, again, philosophical differences, but I hate to cultivate all the concerns that I brought up when we bought this and Engine 3. If you buy stock trucks, they will not last 20
Engine
years.
3 wasn't stock. We waited a long time for that thing.
Nah, did we wait for that?
That was a spec truck, Steve Carrier.
Okay. Then I'll eat my words on that.
Was it certified?
He said, me.
Yeah.
It was Steve
Yeah,
Carrier.
yeah,
He
it's-
wouldn't take a certified truck.
Yeah, that's.
Say what you want about it.
The apparatus manufacturers won't sell you a truck that doesn't meet the standards. You have to sign all kinds of waivers, because if they sold you a truck that didn't meet the standards and something went wrong, you could hold them liable, and it's a lawyer game. So everything that they build meets the NFPA standards.
My last plea, because I honestly have to run, is that whether we agree with what the chief is presenting tonight or not, is allowing it to go before the body. Because we're at the 11th hour, the meeting's coming up. We can change it, we can respec it, now's not the time to do that. Is that we allow the chief and the commissioners and the budget committee to bring this plan forward, and we have a cordial conversation about what we think is right and wrong, and see what the body says. If the body says no, then no is no.
So here's kind of my take, and I'll go back 6 to 8 months. We had some very aggressive discussions on maintenance and repair funds for all these vehicles. I mean, we spent multiple evenings, remember, about trying to trim some money back on repair and maintenance and da-da-da-da. That was one of the few places where we really could, because you can't, payroll was tough, insurance, there was some fixed things. There were pages of the budget that we had to kind of breeze through because you can't pull things out. But I remember maintenance and repair being a very aggressive thing. We tried to pull some money back on, and the chief's like, "You're killing me here," and we kind of held the line. Another area was when we had the discussion about personnel. We were divided 4 to 3, or 3 to 4 when we didn't want to add somebody, and then it went 4-3 to add 2 people. Well, we didn't take it up the middle and have a vote on adding one staff member. We put it to the bottom. We said, listen, we'll pull all the numbers together. You have menu options, you have choices. We're not the voting, but we had a very aggressive conversation on whether to hire 2 or hire 0, but we didn't go up the middle with 1, but we wanted to have it on the menu for the voting body. So we wanted to have many different questions and answers and numbers and provide as much information as we can. And I think that's what we did in the budget process, is to do the deep dive and then serve it up to the voters. again, it's all our money. We would have our say. Whether we recommend or not recommend tonight is not going to preclude it from going before the body, I would think. It's like every other warrant article. We had recommended by and not recommended by, and a budget that was recommended by and not recommended by. Done.
You're gonna have a public hearing for the meeting.
If there's a bond, there would be, but I think we're past the
We
public.
always have public hearings for the meeting.
We've had public hearing. We've had a public hearing on the budget.
On the budget, yeah.
Yeah, and it was warrant articles, but we're going to add warrant articles. We may have to.
We're not adding
We're
that.
not adding. We're changing.
We could amend.
Could amend.
So, to your point on that, repairs and maintenance, budgeted this year was $54,468. At the time I wrote this, a couple weeks ago, I spent $41,763. I have $12,705 remaining. So 77% of that line budget has been spent. Only 46%.
And we knew when we trimmed it back that we said, oh, there may be money come out of other areas and other lines because the show must go on. The trucks have to get fixed. And
It does every year.
yep, we're just going to take out another
I
pocket.
sat where you are for 10 years.
Yep.
It was the same every year.
10 long years. You're supposed to laugh.
So,
That's why you don't see me that often.
Sarah, just one question here.
I'm
You
more
guys-
home
you
to
guys
fuck
are
off.
on
You
budget
guys
committee.
can do what you want.
You're kind of throwing around that you're going to let the body make up their mind, which is great.
Yep.
But it would be a good idea if the fire commissioners and the budget committee had some type of idea. This is what we really recommend. And if you don't recommend anything, people are going to say, well, shit, they don't know, they don't care.
Well, exactly, Paul.
That's a good point, Paul.
We will we'll take a vote just like we did in every other phase of the project. But part of having whether we support it or not is the why. And I think we've unpacked a lot of issues and a lot of questions. Because when folks get up to that microphone and say, well, what about this? We can say, you know what? We had a very healthy discussion about that. Or, geez, we didn't. We thought we covered everything we possibly can. And I would say, I'm going to steal your line, I've worked on many teams. This team is one that over this past winter, I think we had a good mix of talent with previous fire commissioners and the discussions we had over the budget process. And I'm going to get into that at the district meeting. And thank God it's not sitting in the parking lot of Tanger, but we have to know the why. And I could say yes, and I could say why I said yes, and I could say no why I said no. And I think that's the purpose of. So what was the fire? I don't even know what the fire commission was recommending. And I guess I don't want to be skewed by that, but at some point I want to know what the alignment was at your level.
I don't think we came up with anything yet.
Yeah.
We were waiting to hear what you guys wanted to say.
Right.
Then we were going to,
But that's not how it works. You guys are up first.
Yeah.
Then it comes to us.
Yeah.
And frankly, that's a problem I've had with the commission since I've not been on it. Nobody wants to say anything. Some people, no matter what the chief says, yes sir, he's the chief, I hired him, he knows all there is to know, and if he wants one truck or two or three, maybe we'll give him a helicopter too. There are other people who goes, no matter what the chief wants, he ain't getting a damn thing, nothing, ain't budget.
Yeah.
So, the people in the middle, which are fewer and fewer, believe it or not, I'm dead set middle. I buy stuff, I pay for it, I buy what I need, not what I want. And that's my biggest problem with this organization, is I see way more wants every budget cycle.
And
that's subjective though. What you feel is a need or a want is what you feel is a need or want. What we feel is a need is what we feel is a need, and we don't have any extra wants in there.
You need a fire truck, you want a secret, you want a suspect, you need a fire truck. I agree, we need a fire truck. We don't need an $800,000 fire truck.
A what?
We don't need an $800,000 fire truck.
We're not. We're buying it's
700.
actually, it's
657.
677 or something like that now. It's gone. If you buy two right now, you get a $25,000 break off the 703.
So you spend 600 to save.
677. Well,
But Kevin, when do you give credit to, your voice was heard? You didn't want an $800,000 fire truck, and your voice was heard. So 800 compared to 677, you can buy a lot of pickup trucks for that difference, can't you? That's a lot of savings.
It's still a lot of money for fire.
It is, but I'm not hearing you say anything positive about, wow, that's a lot less money than I thought it was.
you
The
don't,
C grade was 800.
Yeah, we're not talking about
Originally.
secrets. We're
So
talking
then we're not
about,
really talking about 800. We first talked about 7 something,
That's not what we're talking about now.
and then now it's 670. That's 30, 40 grand on that kind of purchase. Not a lot of money. Show me going from, gee, we really need this $700,000. Oh look, 560. 560
So-
over 700.
So I don't know trucks, so show me, what should we pay and why? And what do we get for it? Because I don't know trucks. What should a truck, I
how
don't
long
think,
do you want it to
I
last?
don't, exactly, I don't know what, I don't think 300,000 is gonna buy us another truck.
Depends what you get for a truck. If you buy a custom chassis truck over a commercial chassis truck, why do we need a custom chassis truck?
Functionality.
huge functionality.
Because we want it.
Second, more than safety reasons. If you roll that tanker, that cab is going to crush like it'll look like a pancake. And I've seen it 1,000 times. You roll, not that you should roll anything around here, not that you should, but if you did, the structure of these things, the cab is going to stay intact, and it's more likely that if we have injuries, they're going to be much less severe. Then you can go on the internet, look at rollovers of commercial Freightliners, Internationals, whatever Peterbilts. They're made out of fiberglass. They disintegrate. These things are made out of steel and aluminum.
What is the actual chance of that happening here?
What's the chance you want to take on a firefighter's life?
I don't know. You're willing to take a chance
I
that
didn't
the
like that.
antenna's going to fall on my
I
building?
didn't like the fact
No,
that brand new
no,
engine got
there is no
rear-ended.
chance of that happening. It's not going to fall on the building because if you look at the diagram, it falls short of this building. It may fall on a new building that we may get sometime down the road if we ever get it there. What's going to happen is that antenna's going to fall down. It needs 3 guide wires on it. There's only 2. It will fall down. And that's a liability that should be taken care of right away.
What's the cramp angle on a commercial chassis?
I don't really.
Okay, keep going.
I don't. I mean,
It's not for practical application. I mean, you can put a fire truck on it, but if we want something that's going to have a tight cramp angle that can make a turn into a driveway, that might be a tight swing. We got a lot of tight swing driveways. The cramp angle is almost 30% less in a custom fire cab than it is in a commercial engine. So when we start talking about those things, I don't want to have to do a 6-point turn to pull into a driveway. To me, I'd rather spend the money. Let's have good functionality with it. The cab's designed to have firefighters in it. And it's the doors open almost 50% more. You find it in that fire trucks, you know that. So go in the tanker, see how wide that door opens. So now put an air pack on. If we don't have air packs on, we're fine, probably. But put an air pack on, jump out of the passenger seat. That's where the officer is. Jump out of the back seat. You got 2 guys in the back seat, maybe 3. They jump out with air pack, tools, and a flashlight. But I've got to walk sideways to climb out of the truck. So now I can keep going if you want me to. So, you know, they're higher. The steps are different. So when I guess it's the difference of, can you cut a 2x4 with a handsaw? Why would you buy a skill saw? I don't understand. It's a lot more money. It's like it's like $235 for a skill saw. But I can buy a handsaw and cut the same 2x4. You know what I'm saying?
you can.
So, I do have to run, I apologize, and I like these conversations because it's what makes up our community. I've learned a ton from, the Engine 3's purchase I learned a ton from, on let's pay cash. I never had that philosophy until you brought it up. And we have the money in the bank, the chiefs run the numbers. We could pay cash for 2. I could go on for hours on functionality. I like the idea of putting it on the table. If somebody came to I'm not going to be at the meeting, but if somebody came to the meeting and convinced me that it's not a good idea, then I'd probably vote no. But I haven't heard anything tonight that would help me change my mind. And I hope at some point that this fire district can break out of let's buy a cheap truck and let's pray that it's gonna last 20 years. We haven't done it yet. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. I think there's some areas, and we've lived in the community together enough, and we've worked together enough. I know you don't like to borrow money, and that's made me not want to borrow money. And like he said, I've learned a lot of. I don't like to pay interest out to somebody else because that doesn't buy us stuff. That buys the banks money. So I think that's something that we have alignment on for the most part. And we talk about maintenance. I mean, we hammered that pretty hard. I don't like throwing money out the window to fix things on ad nauseum on trucks we know we're never going to keep forever. So there's some of these areas where I think we have some common ground. I don't know what the trucks should cost. I don't know how cheap can you get it and look ahead 20 years. Nobody can look ahead and say, this truck is the 20-year truck or this truck is a 30-year truck. There is some science and there's some history and there's what other departments have done and can we learn from that. Anybody have comments, questions?
I just have one comment. We talked about the possibility of getting one this year and one next year. That is something we could do something about in terms of negotiating with the company. Have you tried to do that?
Yes, but you're not going to realize the same savings.
How much, what are you talking about in terms of difference?
But if there was 2 POs cut within
Yeah.
this before September,
I mean, are they do they have that much work that they wouldn't like to be guaranteed they would get it from us?
The work is so far out that if you sign a PO for a truck today, you're not going to see it for a year because they're so busy building everything in front of it.
What is taking them a long time to build it? Have you attempted?
Actually, it doesn't take that long to build the actual truck.
Have you attempted to negotiate?
Yes, I will. I can negotiate more,
But the people that are going to be making the real decision don't want to get them both now. Can we work out a deal?
I'll talk with them some more, see if we can stagger it somewhat. But
Because that's something we can.
but
do
that's something
about.
like if you're doing a lease purchase, you have to get the lease purchase company, whoever you're using, involved in that negotiation because of how the finances work. When the payments are going to be
Yeah.
made, when's the first payment going to be made.
When you got a loan
You could
amount,
probably,
right?
so you could start making payments right away and save on interest, or you can defer payments until the trucks show up, but you end up paying more in interest because that principal is out there and you're not making payments on it. Through all that process, what I've presented so far, all the ideas that everybody's mentioned, is still the cheapest way to go. Well, cheapest. The least expensive way and, least expensive way of doing it, long term.
I'm not arguing that. What I'm talking about in terms of presenting it to the taxpayers. If you say, well, we're not going to, this is going to come out of the budget this year and this next year, that may make a difference for the taxpayer. It would for me.
So some of it would come out this year, and the way I have it in these spreadsheets is 5 years of payments.
And that's because of the interest, right?
It's principal and interest. So you pay, I have an amortization.
No. Okay, yeah.
That might be in my office. There it is. Here's an amortization sheet. I didn't print everybody up that. That's the way it goes. So that's 60 monthly payments. You pay every month. Because if you pay every month, you pay the principal on quicker, and you pay less interest over time.
So Chief, you sign a PO today, you make a down payment. How much is that down payment?
So you purchase one, you pay.
Just saying in general.
In general?
You're going to place an order for a fire truck. for an engine. You call them up and you say, here's the PO. What do you need for a down payment? How much is that?
For one truck or both trucks?
A truck,
A truck,
10%, 20%.
it can be any number you want it to be, and they'll work it out other ways. The cheapest way to do it is to buy it cash.
So,
And you pay it up front, even before the truck's delivered, and you pay for a performance bond.
so they have payment terms, right? That-
Everybody does, yes.
Okay, so what are the payment terms for one engine? 50% down, we pay 30% when it's complete, when we take delivery, and 20% when it's approved?
You can pay it, you can do any of those. They're all options.
I see where you're going.
But you can pay it up, pay 100% up front, you can pay 50% up front.
I don't want to pay for anything until we have engine in hand.
You can wait until the engine is in hand.
So what do they charge if that's the case? If you pay 100% upon delivery, they must charge it.
700 and 3,000.
Okay, perfect.
Or whatever, 703.
All right, so we don't have to give them a down payment.
Nope.
Okay, so let's just go with, I'm going to make a statement, and I don't want to argue this statement, I just want to use it as a hypothetical. We're going to get 2 trucks, okay? We place an order today for 2 trucks. What do we have to put down?
0.
You just told me 0, okay? So we're going to take delivery of 1 truck in 14 months.
Thereabouts, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. Say 12 months. It's easier for me to think that way.
Okay, so we're going to take delivery in 12 months. What will the delivery on a second truck be? Can we stage it to say we want it to be 4 months later or 6 months later? Or is it mandatory that it be on their delivery period?
You could probably stage it a little bit distance, but probably not too far because of the tooling and stuff like that. They want,
Okay,
I would have to talk to the manufacturer of
Okay.
how far apart.
so let's just assume that you can't. Let's assume that you can't. Okay. So in 12 months, from the day you place the PO, in 12 months, we will have 2 engines waiting in their parking lot, waiting to get paid.
It would probably be 12 months and 13 months,
Okay,
or something like
all
that.
right. So in 13 months, what will there be in the equipment and apparatus fund? If we
Well,
don't,
In very rough numbers, what's our average annual of years?
So
400
we
grand or so.
have $1.5 million in there right now.
so
We're
you,
going to collect another 200 and, around 200, we'll just call it 200,000 maybe. It's probably going to be more than that. So that's 1.7.
what else do you have on the capital improvement plan for expenditures from the equipment and apparatus fund?
So
Ambulance.
an ambulance next year. It's in
No, I'm talking this
Right
year.
now.
This year?
Right now.
right now. I
There's
have
$389 for fire equipment. That's for the air packs that we already got. Is that correct?
air packs.
There's $47 for rescue equipment. Has that already been spent?
No.
That's EMS. Yeah. And then 8 on
And
rescue.
then 8 on rescue.
And there's it's probably down page 12, I think, on the budget.
Okay, so can you give a rough estimate? Can you give a rough estimate of where we'll be in 12 months from when you place the order for 2 trucks in the equipment and apparatus fund? So you would place, if the meeting is in July 17th and it's approved, the expenditure is approved, you would place the order July 18th.
July, beginning of August.
12 months from then is July of next year. So 13 months from right now. Where are you going to be in the capital improvement, in the equipment and apparatus fund in
now, when our expenses are,
And then remove from that amount the cost of 2 engines with no additional lease.
Not my point.
Correct.
$1.3, oh, plus another, so it would still be like 1.5.
Okay, so if we had 1.5 in the equipment and apparatus, I'd like a more precise
Yeah,
number
I'm
if we can.
I'm not trying to,
No, I know.
this is a question that I usually, I get my spreadsheets going in my computer and stuff, I can figure this much more accurately and just.
So if we were to take,
I don't know if I'm forgetting something right now either.
so the cost of 2 engines now would be 1.382 million.
Yes.
Okay, so that leaves somewhere in the neighborhood of 100,000 or so in the equipment and apparatus fund. July of next year, with another 400,000 in revenue during that year. So that puts us up to 500, 550, somewhere in there. Now, you have expenditures here planned for next year, which is 300 for an ambulance, 53 for EMS equipment, 42 for, I'm getting my lines crossed out. Fire equipment is 53, EMS is 42, ambulance, rescue is 9. So you're looking at 350, you're looking at 425,000 or so. Okay?
Though
Planned,
these are predicted and not absolutes.
okay, but they're planned for next year. Okay? So in July of next year, when this payment will be due for 2 trucks, we will have about $550,000 in the equipment and apparatus fund.
Yep.
And we'll have 2 new engines that we're going to take delivery of, and we'll still have enough money to fulfill the capital improvement plan for next year.
Yep.
Because we're still going to have 5 more months after July of revenue, another 200,000, 180,000. So my point is that we can do this using the equipment and apparatus. Yes, it's going to deplete it. It will prevent it. It could prevent us from putting money on a bond for the fire station. Okay, but this is doable without borrowing money.
Oh, it absolutely is. Absolutely, because literally, I'm showing the expenses in this year. We're really not spending it until next year. And then the ambulance purchase, I'm showing the expense in that year, but really, it's not going to take place until probably the following year. So the things that are highlighted in yellow, except for a small, like a command car or a boat or something like that, that happens right away. SCBA's, it happens right away. But ambulances and engines take anywhere from 8 months to 14 months to get. So they end up being the following calendar year, fiscal year.
So to purchase 2 engines simultaneously, we we save $50,000 in the cost of the equipment. If we do it through the equipment and apparatus fund without a lease purchase, we save $41,000 in interest. What will it cost us, and we're saving the projected maintenance of 2 machines over some period of time,
Right.
which is projected here around $83,000 savings, and that's on 1 machine, right? If we buy now, we replace 1 machine, engine 3, you're projecting we'll save somewhere around $83,000 in the next 5 years
Yes.
on maintenance. So there's some savings here. There's some savings here, and my opinion is it looks like we can do this without borrowing money. We can do this through the equipment and apparatus fund without depleting it, and so the real question are we getting sufficient value in purchasing 2 vehicles to do that? And if you buy a machine this year and it's engineered to fit in our building, okay, that engineering cost is gone, it's flushed. They're not going to say if you buy one next year, you've got the engineering cost covered because a valve changes, dimensions change on something, so components are no longer available. You're going to pay that engineering fee again. So the only way that you're going to save the $50,000 on the machines is buying them simultaneously. So my opinion is that it's wise. Replacement of the engines, I think, is something we all can agree upon, that it's necessary. Yes, we can milk one along over a period of time. How long are you willing to do that, and to what expense are you willing to do that? And the reminder is that the maintenance and repairs is taken from the tax rate. If we buy it through the equipment and apparatus fund, it's not going to affect the tax rate. So my feeling is it's pretty safe to say that we need the 2 machines. We may not need them both this year or next year, but we need one immediately, and a second one is not far behind. If we can save in the neighborhood of $180,000 or so by doing that, I think we should do that.
Do we have to, like, change the philosophy of the equipment and apparatus then?
No.
That's the pay cash.
That's my job is to manage this. And I've been here 6 years, and when I arrived, it had like $400,000 in it. I purchased what we need to purchase in timely fashion. I've increased our ambulance revenues through changing our process.
And your efficiencies, you picked up some speed on.
And I am very conservative in how I predict these things out, so that I never put the apparatus and equipment fund or the TNFD in jeopardy financially. I would never do that.
For instance, you can look on the capital improvement plan and look up until this year on the revenue that was brought in through ambulance charges. 474 last year, 463 the year before that, 462 the year before that. And the projection for this year, so it's going to be this line on here, revenue. So this is actual revenue those years, and then you look at what the chief is projecting, it's significantly less. It's not like he's saying we made 474 last year, I think we'll make 480 this year. No, he's saying we'll make 415 this year. And chances are it's going to be significantly higher.
Right. So we've spent money all along out of the fund, and the fund has continued to trend in growth to get us ready for financial. I mean, that's we're at the dance for an engine. We knew that all along because this plan is taking us to a point for an engine. One. And then, but looking at 5 years out for engine 3, the projected, and everything's projected and guesstimated. I don't, there's some salt to be taken with a projected cost of $1 million back on 2025 on page 2. I don't think I'd be any more thrilled about paying $1 million than I would be for a 700,000 or 800,000. But just like with buildings and construction, it's always cheaper to do it faster now. So how does this whole build out change if we move that number in to get a smaller number, but not so small? We've got to spend wisely to get a truck that will take us the distance. I don't like the note on page 3 that says new engine should be purchased every 10 years.
Well, that's changed.
Yeah, we want to spend money into a situation that's a 15 or a 20. We don't want to buy trucks every 10.
That was the philosophy when I showed up here.
I get it.
And to be a healthy organization, you have to adapt and change as things change around you. And so that line and some of those other lines probably should change. But the ones that I've never changed or even thought about changing was the projections on revenues and expenses.
Right.
The growth or factors, not the actual items.
Yeah.
But you still have to be adaptable.
Yeah, and you said it before, is you have to underplan your income and overplan your expenses and hope, not hope as a business strategy, but you can't bank on having an increase in funds. You're conservative with your income and you're aggressive with your expenditures, and the expenditures come in under your projected and your income exceeds your projections.
And I've been building that fund up.
Yeah, right. To get us ready for the engine, which are our biggest liability in this entire 3 pages.
No question.
I think the ambulances are expensive, but not nearly what an engine is, and those are the ones that have got to go out and make us money to make all this happen. So an ambulance is no big deal. We got to spend that because that's the fundamental 70% of the calls, and et cetera, et cetera.
So Chief, in fairness to my throwing around numbers, one thing we didn't talk about was what does it cost to outfit the machines? So you have in here, I assume, for 2020, the cost of outfitting, you said it was in the neighborhood of $28,000 or something?
Yes, 28.
Okay, $28,000 for equipping one engine.
Right.
So in fairness to all the numbers, we need to take that twice?
No,
or?
because we're using, that's to get both engines totally equipped.
Similarly, matching.
Matching.
Yeah.
Because when we put that together, we're replacing engine 1. We're only replacing one engine, and that's not all the equipment. We're using a lot of stuff off this truck to furnish the new truck. If we buy 2, we're going to use all the stuff off of engine 3 as well.
So the $28,000 estimate for refitment is for one truck. The second truck you think would be 0?
Yes.
Or a much smaller number.
The only number I don't have in there, out of all of these things, is what it's going to cost for the radio shop to take the radios out of this truck and put them in that truck.
Okay.
Why do you need all the equipment in this truck, plus an additional $28,000 worth of equipment for a new truck?
Excuse me?
Because this truck is not outfitted the same as engine 3, and in order to bring them to the same outfitted level.
They want to get to parity.
No, that's not what I'm saying. We replace engine 1
Yeah.
with whatever you buy. You're going to use everything on this truck plus $28,000 in new equipment for the new truck.
Yes, because then it'll be equipped the same as what engine 3 is now. This truck doesn't hold all the equipment that we want it to hold. It's smaller, the compartments are just not arranged properly.
There's that word again. We want.
So operational efficiency, it's better if we have them equipped the same.
So Chief, is it possible to get a revised capital improvement plan with what we just discussed?
Yes.
Getting I guess we should keep the one that we have.
Keep two of them.
Both, two different versions of the story.
Right. What I'd like to know is where is this bottom line number going to be at the end of next year?
I know that's what you're shooting for, yes, and I will predict that. So exactly the scenario is, if we pass 2 engines right now, pay for them when they show up, cash on the barrelhead, that's the scenario you want me to run.
Yeah, because you would be taking delivery in July or August of next year. Is that correct? 12 to 13 months? And we
I'm
would-
not sure. So part of the break that you're getting is the interest that you're paying, the company's paying while they're on their materials and things like that. So I'd have to talk to them what the cash on the barrel.
That's what I asked what the down payment was, because typically you gotta cover
You got a tool
their,
out.
right,
Yeah.
their material costs, you gotta cover on a down payment, typically. Not on fire engines.
So I'll have to talk to them and find out where the sweet spot is.
Because
on
that makes a big difference.
Oh, it does, absolutely.
Because now what you're saying is that we need to put a down payment down, and it's gonna be, it could be on 2 vehicles rather than 1. So we need to know how that's gonna affect it.
Yeah, it could be anywhere. So we're right now, currently, if we paid them both up front, we're saving $50,600. If we only put a down payment on, that number's probably gonna shrink.
Okay, so that's not what you said earlier. Now I'm getting confused. What you're saying now is that the 50,000 savings is if we pay 100% upfront.
Because when you use the lease purchase, we're gonna pay cash for 1 engine, and the bank or the leasing company will pay the other half, the other full price.
Yeah, 100%.
The other 100%. So you're paying for both up front when you sign the contract.
Okay, so if you sign it, let's go back to district meeting on the 17th. On the 18th, you have an approval to purchase 2 vehicles. How much money do you have to give them with that PO? 100% of 2 vehicles?
For that $50,600 savings, yes. If you give them less, that savings will probably be less. But I don't know what that number would be.
And if we financing it, then we're giving them all the money, basically.
Yes.
So you get that 50,000.
Right.
You pay the interest.
So financing it, the total finance cost is $46,000, but you're saving 50. So it's like a 41,000, and you're saving 50 change. So the net savings, even financing it, you're still saving $9,000 change
By financing it.
by
And
financing
you
it
pay financing, you pay over 75 years. or
over
whatever.
5 years.
So there's less pain. Good.
But I think, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, correct me if I'm wrong, but Kevin's concern about that is that the equipment and apparatus fund was not set up to pay interest. And if we were to do a lease, I think the discussion was pay the first year's payment out of the equipment and apparatus fund. And when the second year's payment came due, pay it off. So we pay The only interest we would pay would be for the first year. And that interest would have to come from the operating budget, not the equipment and apparatus fund. Is that correct? With the intention of paying it off in the second year.
That can be done.
Does that alleviate your concern about borrowing money out of the equipment and apparatus fund, or using it for interest?
No, I actually don't believe that there is any legal issue with making payments out of that fund, because it says purchase for the purchase of XYZ. It does not say in one lump sum.
I didn't.
Or terms, purchase terms.
I didn't ask you what the legal use of that is. What I asked you was, does it alleviate your concerns about making interest payments out of that? Legal,
Because you don't like, as
No.
I, don't like to borrow.
it doesn't alleviate your concern about using the equipment and apparatus fund for making interest payments? We just laid out a scenario where you don't do it. We're not going to do it.
We're still paying interest.
We're still
We're
paying
still
interest.
borrowing money to buy equipment.
Right.
That's the issue.
Okay. All right. So if we took the first year's payment out of the equipment and apparatus fund, and we paid the interest for that first year out of the operating budget, and then paid the machine off at the beginning of the second year, no more interest, no nothing. Is that, your issue is that 1 year of interest?
Interest at all.
Excuse me?
Interest at all.
Okay. That's a possible scenario to present, rather than, because honestly, having to pay 100% up front for 2 machines changes the whole dynamic of my scenario.
Or whether or not there's money, fuel money in the tank.
Right.
I've heard several times that if we buy this right now, there is no right now. You're 15 months away probably, 12 months.
We're talking about buying it in July, taking delivery of it in 12 to 13 months.
Right, so you're not going to get the truck now.
Understood.
We have a problem now.
So
How do you solve the problem now?
I think what we do is we
Yeah.
continue to maintain the
Not
equipment.
smart, not do it.
Don't do it again.
Don't make the same mistake again.
We have no choice but to maintain the equipment until we get it replaced. The sooner we get it replaced, the less maintenance we're going to have to do on the old stuff. And that scenario is spelled out here as well. I don't like the idea of including that $45,000 in
Well,
there.
just look at the engine 3 cost then. Take engine 1 out of it entirely. It's still cheaper.
3-year average of $21,000 per year.
I mean, there's money there. We just need to reel in the spending
Elsewhere.
elsewhere. There's 300 grand in it for an ambulance next year.
It'll be cheaper than that.
We need a $300,000 ambulance.
If we want one like A1, which has been a very good ambulance with very little problems, yes.
That could have been bought for less money too. It was the body we put on it that cost us so much money. That's just an F-Series chassis.
That's,
You put that particular body on there, but you could have bought several other bodies. And the thing's gonna last 7 years anyway.
so the body we put on there is specified to how our medics use the truck. The way it's laid out in the inside and everything else. It's laid out so it's the most efficient way for them to take care of a patient.
Can you honestly compare the ambulance that we have now with the newer one? That's A1, right?
Yes.
To A2.
Absolutely not. That ambulance, just like this fire truck, never should have been bought in the first place. That ladder and that ambulance was spec'd by the same chief who again, I say every chief that comes has different ideas. I knew of the issues of that particular chassis
Can we look
and went to the chief and said, don't buy that because this happens. He looked at me and said, that's the one I want.
Can we look forward instead of look back? What's already
We're not
happened?
my point is, we're not learning anything from our mistakes.
How do you say that?
How do I say that? Look at the budgets. Every year, it's something else.
We're talking about the ambulance. You were specifically asking about the ambulance. Why does an ambulance cost $288,000? We're trying to explain that. Do you want another ambulance like that that's in the shop all the time?
That was all the money when it was bought.
I'm sure it was, but it isn't now. It isn't now. That chassis is not designed for the weight that it carries, the function that it's used.
That is a
and
certified ambulance chassis.
I'm sure it is, but it doesn't meet our needs because of the types of roads that we have, okay? That front suspension is not going to hold up. Do you want another one like that for less money?
We knew that when we bought it, and we still bought it.
Okay, so let's learn from our mistakes and not do that again. Let's buy a good chassis with a good box with everything in it that our EMTs need. Not want, need. I'm fully on board with you with the want and need thing. But getting something cheaper is not always better. It doesn't
I'll be
save
the
you
first
money.
to say that.
So that's why an ambulance costs $288,000. That's why a fire engine costs $700,000. That's why. You want a piece of crap? Let's go buy another one. We'll have the same conversation. You'll be older, I'll be older, I'll be bald, and we'll have the same conversation again. At some point, we have to learn from our mistakes and move forward. Look that direction, not that direction. Sorry. I'm trying to talk through this.
No, you're doing a damn good job, too, because I can actually understand.
Okay, so what are we looking to do tonight? Well, I don't want to cut off any other comments or conversation.
It's really tough to even make a call for a vote on a recommendation when we have some options and different scenarios in front of us. And I'll say this, when we did the budget, and we voted on the budget, it got published as recommended by the budget committee, and I asked that that be removed because we were not 100% in line, in unison, in lockstep with that recommendation. So I don't think that our recommendation was like 7-0 or something. I had Kathy remove that number because I don't think through the budget process we agreed on every line. We didn't agree on every scenario, and we didn't agree on the bottom line number, but we got a passing vote to put it to the body. What is it that we're trying to put to the body here tonight? Buying 2 trucks, buying one with a lease purchase, one with cash, buying 2 paying cash. I'm not sure what it is, but we're taking a vote on because we just talked about a few different choices for it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure what we're recommending or not recommending, but we're talking about a few different ways to slice this thing, which I don't think we'd come to an agreement on any one of them. We could get a majority on. This was kind of a fact-finding, and I wanted to hear the whole pitch, and I didn't know there was a lease involved. And, the hair in the back of my neck stands up when we talk about borrowing money because we've had those conversations for, I don't know, I was on the first budget committee, I don't know, whenever we started doing it, and that was a big education for me. Paul?
Well, I guess my feeling is, I mean, you're throwing around all kinds of things. Are we talking buying 2 new trucks? Or are we just, is that how everybody feels?
The chief is asking for 2 trucks.
It's not, let's forget about the money right now. We can deal with that later. Are we talking buying new trucks?
No,
2 of them.
You can't deal with that later.
No, it's how we do it.
We can discuss how we want to pay for them after. I mean, there's all kinds of options. We can borrow money, we can pay for it cash, and there's all kinds of ways you can do it.
I think we've got to have our ducks in a row and have a presentation, not a presentation, but have a direction at the district meeting I don't think we can go there and say, you know, we feel we should get 2 trucks, or we feel we should get 1 truck this year and 1 truck later. And I don't think we should do anything unless we've made a decision on what direction we want to go and how we're going to get there.
And I agree with you. I agree
And
with you.
that's really 2 steps.
Yeah.
First question is, 1 engine or 2? Second is, how do we pay for
How do we
the
pay
vehicles?
for it?
And the pros and cons of each, because when the folks get up to the microphone, they're gonna ask, you know, what's the cost benefit? I think we have a lot of data in front of us for cost benefit analysis, and not paying for re-engineering and having a second truck design. If we can have, you know, there's benefits to having 2 of the same truck, there's having 2 of the same design, and if they can start stamping out or roughing parts at the same time, and then finish one faster, and then finish one later. There's a lot of moving parts to this.
We need a
Of the
recommendation.
production, the financing, the down payment.
I think we need a
Because
recommendation.
30 minutes ago, there was a 0 that you were holding up about a scenario where we didn't have to put anything down, and then it came out that we'd have to pay for 1 fully, and a bank was going to pay for 1 fully, and then it would go to production, and then we'd start paying the bank back. 2 very different
Scenarios.
conversations in the less than a span of an hour.
So,
One which I support and one which I grossly do not. Right?
So
because I'm a,
if you use the bank, and we pay for one and use the bank or whoever to pay for the other one, and you pay the interest, the total, and you do it over 5 years, including the cost of maintaining those trucks, you come out to $66,000, interest and maintenance. If you just try to maintain engine 3, that's $108,000. You're saving $41,000,
But you gotta take-
even using interest.
You're gonna take 1 year out of that because we're not getting the truck today. We're gonna maintain engine 3 for another
Right,
year.
we still got to, we're still pouring into
Those
the-
numbers don't fly.
We're definitely on the hook into the money pit for another year.
right,
On
Yes.
that. Guaranteed, all in, right?
well, I'm hopeful.
Yeah, right.
So the answer to your question, Jason, is the vote would be on whatever someone made a motion to be.
We need to crunch more numbers. We have all, said, Mike, get us this, get us that, get us the
For
other.
example, this is complete fantasy, but for example, I could move to buy 2 engines for cash, not to exceed $1.4 million. You would,
And I could second that.
and someone may second it or may not.
Right.
If it does, if no one seconds it, it fails for lack of a second. If someone does second it, it would go to a vote.
Yep.
But like I said, that's fantasy.
But, so I agree with your situational awareness. What I want to know is, what are our options? And really, we don't know that tonight. So as far as from a numerical value.
Sure we
So,
do.
no, we don't. Let's just say, for instance, again, fantasy, if we decide to buy 2 trucks, okay, now the question comes, how are we going to pay for it? What are we going to put in front of the district for a payment? That's where the real question comes in. Do we lease one and buy one, or do we buy 2? So one question leads to 2 questions.
In the fantasy I just put out, they'd be bought for cash.
And in fantasy, I would be a no, I would support buying 2 trucks, but on the reality of not having enough money in the bank, I would be a no vote, because we don't have it in.
It's in there right now.
Not yet. We're, with everything else coming out, we wouldn't have 2 trucks worth of money in the tank now. But if we backed out the building stuff and trim
So-
some of the other equipment.
See, that's where you've got to give to take.
Right.
And that was my first question. What are you willing to give up for this? And I got a pretty...
What
nothing.
don't we need?
So we don't want
And
to, we don't want to be putting off purchases to get something we really need. We just want to spend more money. That is really what it is. Because I've heard no offer to cut anything else to either make this possible or gain support.
Bill? that's making an assumption that I have something in my budget that we don't need.
There's something in every budget. There is fat in every single municipal budget ever created.
I don't
the
put
cut,
that in it because you guys cut it out anyways.
the money the get back for spending the money, if you buy 2 engines, what you're gonna get back is no maintenance next year, no maintenance a year after, no maintenance, significantly reduced maintenance over the next 3 or 4 years, because that's how long engine 3 would be used. You're getting back $50,000 in savings because you're ordering 2 trucks simultaneously, okay? You may be saving $41,000 in interest, depending upon how it went, okay? So that's what you're getting back. The need for the truck is, be it today, be it tomorrow, be it the next day, that need will be there. So the question is how do we address that need? And if we can, from a financial standpoint, save nearly $100,000 plus maintenance over the next 5 years, that's what you're getting back. Right? Or no?
That's
Probably
essentially it.
In theory, yeah.
Well, what do you mean?
On the paper, plus the confidence of the, hey, this truck's gonna start and it's gonna
Yeah,
take me to
I
the
mean,
show. you
well,
know,
I didn't-
all the intangibles and all, the
So are we having driveline problems or pump problems or something else?
Both. It's a constant something along with both trucks. Electrical, the wiring harness in this has corroded significantly, and right now we're chasing electrical problems.
Chief, I assume you get an invoice whenever these go for service?
Yes.
And on that invoice, they state what they do?
Yes.
And what it costs?
Yep.
Can you just hit an outline? Just say the last 1 year, the last 2 years, on these 2 machines, not routine maintenance, the items
stuff.
Yeah.
the items that you're most concerned about now and you would be concerned about tomorrow.
I can give you a list of everything over the past year that's been fixed on those two machines.
Because I think
Because I
that's
can't, I've run out of predictions of what's going to break next.
understood. But when somebody asks you, well, what's gone wrong with it? You got to be able to tell them, look, the wiring harness was bad, or the turbo went, or the radiator failed, or the cab mounts broke, and this is how much it costs to fix each one of them. And I just think it's important to have, if somebody asks a question, well, what are you paying all your maintenance for? What are you getting for your maintenance dollar?
It's not tires, batteries, and windshield wipers. It's
Those are planned events.
Yeah,
Tires,
right,
batteries,
exactly.
windshield wipers,
Yeah, your PM,
you know,
and your-
the
right.
PMs. Those are planned. And in the spreadsheet I show you, engine 1 I had like 6,000 planned, and engine 3 I had like 4,000 planned. We've blown that out of the water. Totally blown it out.
But I think it would be beneficial to be able to say, look, these are the major failures we've had. Now granted, I don't expect the turbo to fail again, because we just fixed it.
Yeah.
But these are the issues that we've had, and there's potential for similar issues to continue. And it's not been like a 1-year spike. It's been it's been getting progressively worse over a period of time.
And if you put enough money into it, you can keep it running forever. But you lose the reliability, and
But at what point are you going to be doing?
and
Nobody was talking about.
there are formulas that they use, fleet maintenance people use, that you buy a vehicle and it's the dollars that they spend on it over to a certain period of time, and when it hits a certain percentage, get rid of it. And that's how fleet maintenance people do it.
That's because it all comes to me at the state. On the state vehicles, it's exactly that. There's a cost benefit of, how much more lipstick are we going to put on this pig before, I don't think anybody was having conversations about fluid filling and undercoating and all those preventative things 10 years ago.
I think, and maybe I'm speaking out of line, but it's my impression that maintenance in the past was always, when it breaks, we fix it. There was no such thing as preventative maintenance. Is that? Now, I'm talking pre-Chief Seatalk. Does anybody, I know we did maintenance locally. Was it anything besides oil changes and tires, or was it?
No, I mean, he did all the inspections, did all the maintenance and stuff on it, so.
We did preventative maintenance, or we just did inspections?
No, he did, I mean, he greased, changed oil and did stuff like that. It was done like that. I mean, I don't know what the company does that is certified to do that. All I know is, just because they're certified, what are they certified? They work on fire trucks. Northeast Tire works on Sanderton, they work on Laconia, they're not certified.
Right.
I mean, we have to take it a place, where is it, up in, somewhere? Because they're certified.
Well, that's a different conversation. What I'm talking about is,
They were maintained. Now,
It was done locally. There was the routine maintenance, brakes, fluid changes, stuff like you do in pickup.
and if it needed something major, it went to a place that worked on trucks.
We get into this certified emergency vehicle technician thing with engine 3.
I'm on board. Working on the chassis is one thing, working on the fire equipment is something else.
Right.
I'm on board. What I'm trying to do is put my finger on how is our preventative maintenance in the past been as far as preventing major breakdowns? And is it money well spent to start, if you're starting from scratch with a brand new machine, do we wait 5 years before we do any maintenance on it, or do we do the maintenance that the chassis manufacturer recommends? And then,
You push one to do what the manufacturer recommends. I mean, that's kind of stupid, not to.
so,
Isn't that where we're at? How we got where we're at?
well, that's what I'm trying to figure out is how did we get in such a bad state of disrepair? Is it, and how do we prevent that from happening again if we spend $700 grand on an engine? Now, I guess one of the things that you're saying is with respect to valves and pumps and stuff and drafting dirty water and pulling rocks in across valve faces and stuff, those are things that would never get fixed locally, right? That would be done by the chassis, the body, the pump company, or so that's, is that stuff that got done in the past, or did it just get overlooked and we wait until we have a failure?
It used to be that if we went to a draft site and we sucked water out of a pond or a lake or a river or whatever it was, when that fire was done, that truck was drained and flushed. Does it still do that? Is there any draft water in any of these vehicles?
No, because we flush them and we fill it right here.
So if that truck was on scene and it was sent to draft water and it's headed back to the fire, but they're told, okay, you can go in service.
Well, they come back
That
here,
water
they get rid of,
dumped.
they dump that water and they fill up with this stuff.
But you're still having valve and pump issues due to grit.
Even if we use hydrant water, if you open up, you dress the hydrant and you flush the hydrant, you should see what comes out of the hydrant.
Oh, yeah.
So, even hydrant water can screw up a pump and valve. Chunks of stuff comes
And
out.
again, back when I did this, you go dress a hydrant, it didn't go into the truck. We opened the side and dumped it.
Yes, you
And then you
flush
close
the
it.
hydrant first before you put it in the
Right.
truck. Absolutely. But if you're flowing, even after you flush it, if you flush it till it looks clear,
It may not be.
all you do is need one or two little water hammers. Next thing you know, a whole bunch of stuff breaks loose and it goes through the pump. Next thing you know, the valves are scored or the impeller's messed up or something because of what came through.
And the other thing when you buy a vehicle, especially a fire truck, it's not like a personal vehicle. You get very little warranty on these, very little.
In comparison.
Huh? If you compare it to a vehicle, there's very little warranty on these. They don't give you 100,000 mile on your drivetrain on these here.
5 years on the engine and transmission. 1 year bumper to bumper.
You pay 700 and some odd thousand for it, and that's what you get for warranty. To
Well,
me, that is disgusting.
Well, I think it's like any specialized equipment, they can't monitor its use.
Where will those new trucks go to be serviced?
Lakes Region Mutual Fire. Lakes Region apparatus right now.
Where will the new ones go?
Same place.
Same place?
Yeah. Unless I can find somebody who does it better and cheaper.
Okay, I spinning in my head, engine 3 going to St. Albans, Vermont.
Is it,
Oh.
what if it were?
That's a manufacturer's thing. If it's a manufacturer warranty problem, it'll go to the Sutton dealer, which is in, I forget the town, so
What state?
New Hampshire.
Uh-huh.
Okay, because I'm an outline type of guy. Can I ask you to do a couple things? We presently, well, I think what we've been discussing tonight is one engine, two engines. One engine, we've already got it in the equipment apparatus fund as a warrant article, so that's pretty much, that's a given.
That's basically,
Okay.
yeah.
The big difference is the number's changed. It's gone down $24,000 from the original.
If we buy two at the same time.
No, if
No,
you buy
the number
one.
even, you had the amendment to bring to the
Yeah,
floor
yes,
anyways.
yes.
Because we were at 8, theoretically.
8, 11.
We were at Seagrave money, but then the rest of the bids came in and decisions were.
So the rest of
fine.
the two other manufacturers finally made it so that they can fit it in the station.
Yep.
That was the big.
Right. Yeah,
that's
they
why-
weren't sure. There was a percent error or
Yeah,
degree of confidence.
yeah, it'll be 9 feet 4 inches plus or minus
6 or something.
So the real question is, does the budget committee support
I don't support anything until I see numbers.
Right.
another truck? That's the question, yes or no?
Well, I can't say whether or not I support something unless I know what it's going to cost me.
It's going to cost you $766,000.
677.
677, I got the numbers right.
How you pay for it.
Dyslexic, I get it.
I'm lying in line.
Exactly. What I want to know is where does that put us in the equipment and apparatus fund in July of next year or August of next year when we would take delivery? So
I have to,
could I ask you for two scenarios, both of them related to two engines? The first scenario is both of them coming out of the equipment and apparatus fund, being paid 100% on July 18th of this year.
yep.
Second is two engines, one of them out of the equipment and apparatus fund, 100% this year. The second one, the first year lease, we would lease it, but in the first year we would pay everything except the interest out of the equipment and apparatus fund.
Wait a second. Second engine, 1 year was.
So the payment would be out of the equipment and apparatus fund, the interest, the principal payment.
The principal out of the apparatus and equipment fund, the interest out of the operating.
Correct.
Now, can I ask why you want to do that?
Why do I want to do that? So I can see where that leaves us in the equipment and apparatus fund next year when we need a new ambulance, and whether or not we're going to have sufficient money in the equipment and apparatus fund